In this video, organizing a funeral on my own because my mother wants an apology. My stepmom invites herself over to see my 2-week-old daughter. And don't start a meeting by ending the meeting. Organizing a funeral on my own because my mother wants an apology. A bit of history, as this is not a normal situation. My son's father and I were never in a relationship. It was a one-night stand that changed my life forever. He was an obnoxious POS and we fought all the time. His mother, C, was amazing though, and over the years I've built a relationship with her. When my son was 9, his dad died, pretty much the way he lived, drunk on a motorbike. This was 8 years ago. I made a huge effort to make sure that C stayed in our lives. She grew up in a children's home and my son and I are basically her only living relatives. She was very sick with lung disease and last year I decided she was gonna move in with us so we could look after her. After much debating, she was fiercely independent. She decided to move in this year. Eventually, during an easing of lockdown restrictions, C moved in with us in May. It was not easy, but it sure was fun. She was so funny, great sense of humor, set in her ways but open to everything. I really loved her. My son took her shopping once a week and we were getting into a great routine. I was finally able to spoil her after years of her fending for herself. She was rushed to hospital on the 8th of August with stomach cramps. They then had to move her to ICU as she had a lung infection. On the 13th, the hospital told me that I should come and see her. This was not a good sign as there are strictly no visitors allowed in hospitals at the moment. I honestly thought she would pull through. They've told her so many times that this is the end, and she always pulls through. Well, anyway, she passed last week Monday. My son and I have both been wrecks. He was so close to her, and so was I, as I'm her only living relative, sort of. I've had to sign the death certificate, organize the cremation, arrange the wake, do all her paperwork, do her asset list. It's been emotionally draining, and I'm really just very sad. I had hoped to have more time with her. While I'm doing all this on my own, my sister lives 6 hours away and has a newborn and a toddler. My mother has not called or messaged. She has not called or messaged me or my son. Nothing. She's told all her friends and any mutual friends that she's done with me and she'll never speak to me again unless I apologize to her. Why would a mother not want to be there for their daughter who's trying to do this on her own? We had a fight the weekend that C went into hospital. We had gone to visit my sister and help her with the baby. She's battling as her husband is an essential worker and she's pretty much home alone with an amazing father-in-law, but he's also old. The whole weekend, my mother made it about her. She fought with everyone. She bitched, she complained, she bossed my sister around to make her coffee. Like, what the F? We're here to make my sister's life easier. She wanted to drag me to the mall for throw pillow shopping. Insane. I had a COVID test so I could play with the babies. No way am I risking my sister and the babies because of throw pillows. She shoved Trump down our throats. Spoiler. We don't even live in the USA. She insists on reading all the negative news. On the last day, she was having a go at my poor, exhausted sister, and I just lost it. I told her that she has ruined the weekend for everyone, and we were supposed to be here for sister, but she has made everything about her. She told me to fuck off. I told her to fuck off. She told me I'm the biggest disappointment in her life, and if she never sees me again, she's happy with that. I said that suits me too. She said that she's sorry. She's not perfect like me. I said I'm not perfect. Far from perfect. In fact, I'm a fuck up because of her. She told me to fuck off. I said it's my pleasure. We have not spoken one single word since then. She did send my sister a message on the family group saying what a terrible person I am on the day that C died. Oh, and the kicker. The hospital called her first to say that C had died. She told them it's none of her business and they must call me. They called me at 4 a.m. in the morning to tell me. She's now telling everyone that I refused to allow her to go to the funeral. Like, what the F? No one is invited to a funeral. You're given the day and time and you show up if you want. I honestly do not want her to be there because she'll behave so badly making it about her, making out that she's so fucking perfect to everyone there. I hate it. C wants her ashes put with her son at his gravestone. His grave is about 4 to 5 hours from where we live. We're gonna make a weekend out of it. My dad said my mom will want to come. Neither my son nor I want her there. She hasn't even contacted him to say sorry. He has lost his granny. She has accused me of turning him against her, but I brought him up to stand up to bullies. She's the worst bully. She's called him fat and stupid his whole life. He decided at 10 years old he was done with her. All the bribery in the world would not make him go to her house. She just wants a free holiday and an excuse to be the center of attention. My stepmom invites herself over to see my 2-week-old daughter. So, some backstory. I only had one parent in my life. As my father was an abusive father within the 6 weeks of my life, my mother gained full custody and my father had extremely supervised visits, like a social worker had to watch me with him, so like a daycare lady. He never made an appointment to see me. My mother told me what happened when she deemed ready, so about 15 or 16. When I turned 20, a lady who wasn't more than 3 years older than me contacts me. I mistaken her as a person I'd seen in school. I couldn't be more wrong. Shortly after, I found out she was engaged with my father and had a son with my father. Big age difference. She was 23, my father 57. I got into contact with my father. I never met him, as he lived in New Hampshire while I was in Iowa. We never got close. A month later, my father passed. I don't know how. Shortly, his fiancée, I'll call her stepmom, even though she isn't really, don't want to waste a bunch of words, lost custody of my half-brother and put him up for adoption due to drug overdose. I was asked if I would adopt him as he was my half-brother. I declined because I didn't have the space or money at the time. Around this time, I met my now husband. I'm now 25, my husband 26. I had just given birth to our daughter 3 weeks ago now. So right now, there's 4 people at the house. My mother, 56, husband, our new baby, and I. My mother is with us due to COVID. She's high risk. Plus, she wants to be around to help with my daughter. When my daughter was 2 weeks old, I posted some photos of me, my husband, my mother, and our daughter together. It took us some time with the photos, but we figured it out. I posted them on Facebook. About an hour later, I get a comment from stepmom to check my messages. I check and hear what they basically said. Hey, Op, I'm going to be coming over tomorrow to see my granddaughter. I'm so excited to meet her. I'll stay in the guest room. I should note, she still lives in New Hampshire and I still live in Iowa. I text back, sorry, can't. My baby and my mother are high risk and I'm still learning a routine with my daughter. My mother is also using the guest bedroom. I didn't get a response after this. Next morning, there's a knock at the door. I thought it could be a package I ordered, so I go answer it. When I open, I was pissed. Hey, Op, I'm here to see my granddaughter. My stepmom tries to open the door, but I push back. I told you couldn't come. There isn't room for you, and there are high-risk people here. Please leave. But I have a right to see my grandbaby. Your father would want me to meet her. I'm her family. She tries to give me puppy eyes. Stepmom, I'm not really wanting to deal with this right now. Leave. I shut the door. All seems well until yesterday. She came over again, and this time, since I was busy with the baby, my husband handled her and threatened her with calling the police. She leaves after throwing a fit. Last night, when my baby is asleep, I got a text from her. Why didn't you let me see my granddaughter? I'm her grandma. I came all this way to see her and you deny me seeing her? I just wanted to hold her. Your father would have wanted me to see her. I responded to this. Stepmom, you're not my child's grandma. Only my mother and my husband's mother is the grandma. You weren't married to my father, only engaged. I don't trust you with her either, as I have no clue if you're still doing drugs or recovering. I don't trust you either, as you lost custody of my half-brother. I don't care what my father would want, as he was barely in my life. 3 months max in my life if you include when I was born. COVID is a thing right now, and I have multiple people who are at risk. I told you couldn't come over, but you did anyway. I shut my phone off after this to get the little sleep I can get. Sometime this morning after I rocked and fed my daughter, I got a text from stepmom asking for money at the hotel she stayed at. I hit decline and she sends it again, saying I owe her since she couldn't stay at my place. I decline again and blocked her. I don't know if she's gonna show up again, but if she does, my husband will call the police. Don't start a meeting by ending the meeting. My work environment is less an environment and more so a conglomeration of duct tape, spit, and cussing. I managed, among many things, a set of rentals, accounts receivable, and customer database analysis. Essentially, our company's bust factor was far too high-low. Another important bit that I handled were various legal documents that the state requires meticulous processes to be followed and allows for a digital or physical paper trail. I opted for digital. Now, my boss kindly provided me a Pentium 4 dual-core computer that he found at the bargain warehouse for about $40. I had the most sophisticated workstation in the business. For context, this wasn't quite enough for database management and analytical software to boot up, more or less process a dataset, so I called up our IT guy, who worked for the boss's friend's sister-in-law's business, 200 miles away. I go, "Hey Tim, I need to add my personal laptop to the company network. Can you make that happen?" "Sure, I'll be down to that location in a week or two." "Can it wait?" "Sounds perfect, Tim." So Tim shows up. We get the boss to rubber stamp that this is all okay, and I have remote access to the servers and some annoying corporate mandated securities on my laptop, which, no big deal, they stay out of the way. Tim's corporate. My boss doesn't know a computer from a VCR. We didn't have anything like a software policy either. I think some computers had Office 2007 installed, but that's clunky and makes data transfer complicated. It's the 20-teens. There's no need for that. I do all of my work on a Google Drive account tied to my work email. This is great because I can hot swap my workstation to wherever the boss wants me today. Sometimes he likes to pretend I'm a secretary and throws me in his office. Sometimes he thinks I'm a technician and puts me at a station with no computer. Whatever, data is transient. Anyways, things have been tense recently. I've moved almost all of my job to digital, and the boss thinks that means I don't work anymore. Obviously, an office monkey with no papers is an office monkey with not enough work. Now, he wasn't exactly wrong. I'd been automating things and was doing the job of about 6 people. How can I do the job of 6 people without the boss knowing? Easy. He likes to manage by the seat of his pants. One day, he fired a maintenance person and just rolled that job into the receptionist, driver, and technician jobs. One day, he decided that the sales team could handle marketing. Surely, buying a single $2,000 camera is cheaper than having a professional do shoots each week. Besides, Guerrilla Handycam sales pitches are in vogue. It'll be great. Moving on, after 2 years of shuffling, I'd accumulated a large amount of jobs, many of them tedious, and with the right tools made by me at home on my personal laptop that happens to be able to connect to the network, a good 4-hour job can be completed with about 10 minutes of sorting and parsing data. So the time comes. We all know it's coming. One of the suits tipped me off that the particular suit whose payroll is wasted on chumps like me had propositioned the boss that a pair of receptionists can do the work I do for cheaper. Just hire some college kids, work them each 18 hours a week. It'll be grand. Knowing that, I backed up everything to my personal Google Drive account, but of course did not delete anything from the company-owned one. Like I said, the state has a vested interest in these processes, and I knew in my heart of hearts that the company couldn't be trusted to maintain records. I didn't want to be on the hook for that in 6 years, so I kept a copy. I figured it would go smoothly. I'm called to the big office for a meeting. There's too many suits. My supervisor gives me some side eye. It's not a surprise. I carefully make sure to click log out of all locations on my Google account and tuck my laptop into my car before heading upstairs. The meeting starts with the boss saying, "Well, kiddo?" Yes, he calls me kiddo. Since I'm not 60 years old, I'm obviously a child. "Well, kiddo, I'm sad to say that I was wrong. I shouldn't have hired you. You're fired." Well, that was blunt and rude, so I stand up, extend my hand across the table, and prepare to thank him for the last few years. Not so fast. Sit down. We have things to discuss. What? I sit down for a moment in brief shock. The adrenaline starts to pump and my fingertips are cold. Boss begins to tell me all of the things they need from me. Contacts, account statuses, explanation or discrepancies on AR accounts, documentation for state interests, all things that, as his competent employee, I could have printed and sitting on his desk in moments. I decide to comply with him, starting the meeting by saying I'm fired. Where I live, either of us can stop the employment situation for any reason. He had legally fired me. I counter him. Well, boss, I don't feel particularly comfortable accessing your network since I'm not an employee. He exploded. Think of Karen, a millionaire Karen with little brother syndrome who wants to be John Wayne but looks a little bit too much like Smokey the Bear's fat cousin to get the role. His explosion was violent, spit everywhere. I'll save you the details of how he stalked me to my car and demanded the employees form a barrier. He called me a few times. They went to voicemail as I drove to a public Wi-Fi hotspot. I carefully removed my laptop from their network. I drove home, unpacked my work lunch. My phone hasn't stopped ringing. He probably had a receptionist being paid minimum wage to hit the redial button. Eventually, I answer a call from his cell phone. He makes some demands. I very flippantly offer to come to work for him at 10 times my rate. He yells some more. An hour later, he's pounding on my door. I don't want to deal with that. I know he carries a loaded pistol in his car. Again, cowboy emphasis on the boy. The cops escort him away and I email a copy of my security footage to the responding officer. He thanks me. The company doesn't flounder, of course. Boss man is a millionaire and has been very carefully losing tens of thousands of dollars a year while operating his business. He may have lost some more in the interim. But that's not my concern. My concern is collecting my unemployment. And wouldn't you know, I was fired a few days before fall college class selection begins. I decided to take a few master level classes. I've had my BA for a while. Might as well get some more school in on the boss's dime. Classes go well and I coast through spring semester by tapping into a bit of savings, and wouldn't you know it, the pandemic happens, and my unemployment benefits are extended. Guess I'll take some summer classes, and those extended benefits were at 3 times the base unemployment rate? Gee whiz. Guess I can take a full set of fall classes too. And then the state extended it for another 3 months at double the base? I have winter sessions sign-up date marked on my calendar. The boss man calls me this morning. I coyly thank him. The boss man calls me this morning. I coyly thank him for firing me without cause a year ago and let him know I made the dean's list last semester. He tells me to fuck off. He called to take me up on my deal. He'll hire me at 5 times my rate to give him some information. I remind him, wasn't the deal 10 times my rate? Fuck you. 5x is too much, and I only need you for an afternoon. Well, I've been thinking about it. My underemployment benefits run out in a week or two, so I'll do it. I'll contract for you. I want 20 times what I was making, 40 hours minimum, paid in advance. Oh, and written scope of work. I'm only doing the work you say you need done. Oh, and written scope of work. I'm only doing the work you say you need done during negotiations. Fuck you. I'll give you 5 times in a day of work and that's final. No thanks, boss. I have to get back to classes you're paying for. Thanks again. I hang up. He calls back an hour later. It's actually his daughter, the comptroller of the company. She says she spoke some reason to the boss. He'll hire me at 20x my rate for 40 hours of work, half paid up front. Actually, it was 100% up front, not half. Fine. She starts telling me what needs done. Turns out they're failing a state audit quite badly. Like, boss is not a millionaire if this isn't fixed kind of badly. They have all the information they need, of course. It's on my company email account's Google Drive. I'm not gonna tell them this. Once he pays me for half a year's work, I'll gladly spend the hour or so of time it takes to transfer all the data he needs to a flash drive, wait until Monday of next week, and then hand it to his receptionist. Really, the man couldn't have been nicer. He's already covered me going to college full-time for over a year and is about to cover another 2 semesters. I should buy him a cake.